Today, we're diving into a popular post from the Reddit titled as, "IATA for punishing my son after he said something racist?" This post received 52,897 upvotes. Posted by Snoo Paintings 9288. The post reads as follows. About a week ago, my 39F family ordered Chinese food for delivery. When the delivery driver came to the door, my daughter, 16F, was taking the cat upstairs to put in her room because he always tries to eat the food. My son, 13M, loudly says, "Make sure to hide the cat from the Chinese guy," as I am at the door getting the food from the Chinese delivery driver. He very obviously heard what my son said and was upset by it. I quickly apologized and took the food. I told my son that racist jokes were completely unacceptable and very wrong, and he refused to admit that he was in the wrong. So, later that night I forced my son to write a sincere apology to the delivery driver. His name was on the receipt. As well as write a one-page paper on Chinese culture and a one-page paper on why racism is perpetuated by racist jokes and stereotypes. Then the next day I took him to the restaurant and had him read his apology aloud to the delivery driver as well as give him the papers he wrote. The driver was very appreciative of the apology and thanked me for making my son do it. He then told my son about multiple instances where he had faced racist comments and attacks from people while he was a delivery driver. That night my husband, 43M, and I got into an argument about me making our son do this. He told me that it was embarrassing for our son to have to do the apology and that the punishment didn't fit the crime. I told him that it was much more embarrassing for the driver to have to face that kind of racism and racist stereotypes and that our son would get over the embarrassment. I do not condone any kind of hateful thinking in my house, and the fact that my son said that embarrassed me as well. My husband told me that it was just a joke, and it wasn't that big of a deal. I feel like I might have overreacted some, but I think it's important to help my son understand how what he said was wrong and hurtful. A comment from user D*_shark says, "NTA, your son may have been embarrassed, but he should be embarrassed for having said a racist joke. That kind of joke is meant to embarrass and humiliate the target, the delivery guy. You did right by your son by turning that around and showing him that his attitudes and jokes are the real embarrassment. Soon he will be too old to teach not to be racist. You are a great parent and I hope your son takes this lesson to heart." This comment received 15,812 upvotes. A comment from user Finally Cat says, "NTA, your husband's attitude is precisely the problem and is why systemic racism continues to propagate in this country. Kudos to you for a very just and well thought out lesson for your son, which I hope he can truly learn from and perhaps help solve some of the issues that are breaking our society apart. Perhaps your husband needs to do some similar homework in our ed grads to what racism is and how it harms not simply the people it is directed at, but all people as a whole. Honestly, I am so proud of you, in the most non-condescending way possible, for being such an excellent example of a person for your family." This comment received 6156 upvotes. A comment from user Hajingson Su says, "The punishment exactly fit the crime. You wanted your son to understand the consequences for his actions, for individuals and for the culture at large. Your decision was smart and thoughtful, and more apropos than grounding him or whatever else. I'm particularly confused that your husband objects to the apology. Asking a teenager to apologize to someone they were extremely rude to is baseline responsible parenting." NTA. This comment received 1906 upvotes. A reply from the original author Snoo Paintings 9288 says, "He believes it was embarrassing for our son to be forced to read the apology aloud in front of the driver and a few of the other workers in the restaurant." This reply received 870 upvotes. A comment from user Della Evane says, "NTA. Sounds like your husband could use the lesson too." This comment received 51,381 upvotes. A comment from user An anonymous user says, "NTA. You held him accountable for his actions. What he said was not funny, it was wildly inappropriate and also hurtful. The reason his behavior is so wrong is because that stereotype that Asians eat cats and dogs comes from this nasty belief that all Asians are barbaric people. This prejudice dates really far back, and became even more prevalent during and following World War II. The fact that this prejudice still exists despite the American obsession with Japanese anime and K-pop says a lot, it really does. This is why education is so important, and that is exactly what you gave your son. Edit. Just because some poverty-stricken cities in China consume cats and dogs, doesn't make the stereotype okay. The origins of that stereotype are from the US, not what happens in China. People were convinced that Chinese who operated takeout restaurants would steal their pets and eat them. This stereotype has been applied to all Asians, not just Chinese. And I promise you, most Asians would like you to stop thinking they all steal pets, because they certainly do not. Edit number 2. Thank you for the award, kind person. You are awesome. Edit number 3. Thank you for the Sneck Award. Snakes are my fave animals, laughing face. This comment received 2297 upvotes. A reply from the original author Snoo Paintings 9288 says, I agree. When I was growing up, my childhood best friend happened to be the only Asian child at our predominantly white school. She was constantly made subject to jokes about eating cats and dogs as well as slurs to the point where she dropped out and became homeschooled. It was horrible for me to watch and obviously even so much worse for her to have to withstand. This reply received 1788 upvotes. A comment from user Deathsong says, NTA. You did the right thing. You 100% held him accountable and that delivery driver deserved an apology. This comment received 1503 upvotes. A comment from user littlebit_ says, NTA. My God. Set up a parenting school or start a magazine or something. Amazing. How did your son feel about it after writing the letter and essay and then after meeting the driver? This comment received 877 upvotes. A reply from the original author Snoo Paintings 9288 says, he was definitely embarrassed by the situation, but I think it made an impression and helped him understand why what he did was wrong. Honestly, I am pretty sure I know which friend of his he learned these types of jokes from, and I am conflicted on whether or not I should continue to let him be friends with this boy. I don't want to be controlling over who he is allowed to be friends with, but at the same time, I don't want him to be associating himself with someone who has those types of beliefs. This reply received 817 upvotes. A comment from user PLSUH says, NTA, you handled your son's misbehavior appropriately. Now for the bigger problem. Where did he learn such dumbassery? Hint. Which parent is minimizing and making excuses for such racism? You need to have it out with your husband about A. Having your back when you discipline your son, and B. WTF kind of racist shit is he teaching your kids? This comment received 446 upvotes. A reply from the original author Snoo Paintings 9288 says, I honestly believe he is learning these types of jokes from a friend he met at the beginning of the school year. This is definitely the first time I've ever heard him make a joke like that, and my husband says it's the first time he's heard it as well. My husband has never said anything racist or followed any kind of racist ideas to my knowledge, but I'm pretty upset that my husband can't see how racist jokes are wrong and unacceptable. This reply received 484 upvotes. A comment from user Crombopulus_Rob says, NTA. Your son did something wrong and you corrected him. That's all there is to it. Your husband, however, seems like he condones that kind of humor, and chances are your son picked it up from him. Not sure if that's the case, but it is 100% a learned behavior. This comment received 466 upvotes. A comment from user Deckhagney says, NTA. You did a good job. You're raising your kid, teaching them right from wrong. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people who share these views like your husband. It's just a joke. Well, it's not. This comment received 115 upvotes. A comment from user Illich Greed says, why do these posts always smell like bullshit? This comment received 48 upvotes. A comment from user Auto Moderator says, Welcome to Am I the Asshole? Please view our voting guide here. And remember to use **** only one * judgment in your comment. Help keep the sub engaging. Don't downvote assholes. Do upvote interesting posts. Click here for our rules and click here for our FAQ. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit if you have any questions or concerns. This comment received 43 upvotes. A comment from user Randall Graves says, YTA for involving the delivery driver in your son's punishment. You say he was appreciative of the apology but you ambushed him at work. What do you expect? He couldn't very well tell you to fuck off, now could he? It's bad enough he had to put up with your son's shit the other night. But this poor guy is just trying to do his job and you show up at his place of employment and put him on the spot. Create a scene. All so you can teach your son a lesson. Guess what? It's not his responsibility to teach your kid not to be a racist prick. It's yours, and you're not doing so hot. This comment received 85 upvotes. A comment from user LaBugsy22 says, NTA, you handled that situation in the best way imaginable and taught your son that his behavior was unacceptable without shaming him. By educating him, and having him face the very person he insulted, you're teaching him that his words can and do affect other people. This comment received 71 upvotes. A comment from user Discordant77 says, can I go a little against the grain here and say nah? I think you and your husband believe differently about the severity of a 13-year-old making an inappropriate joke. From other comments you made it sounds like he doesn't have a problem with the research paper or the written apology but only with forcing him to read it to the delivery driver in front of other people. Public speaking is often quoted as being feared more than death, so I can understand why he might think that was just one step too far. I think his opinion as your son's father is valid, as well as your opinion as his mother. I personally think it's great what you did and applaud you. But not ta implies your husband as, and I just think there isn't enough evidence for that. Edit. Thanks for the gold, kind strangers. It's my first awards. Also, since I was editing, emphasized the part about applauding the op. Didn't change any wording. Just added a break in the text wall. This comment received 320 upvotes. A comment from user Epitome Jim says, Info. What does he believe he isn't wrong about? Was he legitimately making a Chinese people eat cat jokes or was he making a statement of fact? Chinese guy with Chinese food is here. Cat likes food and we hide the cat. So hide the cat from the Chinese guy? This comment received 62 upvotes. A reply from the original author Snoo Paintings 9288 says, he didn't think that racist jokes were wrong because they were just jokes. This reply received 152 upvotes. A comment from user TinyAjuma says, NTA at all. The punishment definitely fit the crime. In fact, I would not call it a punishment. It was a correction of racist activity. People who make jokes like that should understand such racism is dangerous. This comment received 57 upvotes. A comment from user Snail_jousting says, NTA the comment wasn't a joke. It wasn't even funny. It's a racist microaggression and the punishment absolutely fits the crime. Your son hopefully learned a lesson here, but your husband is an asshole. This comment received 43 upvotes. A comment from user Ahamel13 says, Esh. The punishment would have been fine with the apology. The rest of that was over the top. Hi dad I am son it means, everyone sucks here. This comment received 81 upvotes. A comment from user Bepsy Lad says, gonna get downvoted to oblivion because of Reddit's mob mentality, hive mind, but whatever. YTA. It was shitty for your son to make that joke, especially to be heard by the delivery guy. To have him apologize was good and proactive of you, and I'm sure that taught him a good lesson about offending people. But to write the whole paper and read it all out to the guy is a bit over the top. 13 is very young, and this seems like something that could cause trauma down the line, potentially making him very anxious in the future. He'll also almost certainly hold this against you for a long time. This comment received 121 upvotes. A comment from user Acanthamoeba 1996 says, NTA. Not only were you right to punish him, you did it in a way that was educational and emo did fit the crime. You were not in any way abusive. In fact, you were very creative emo, and I hope that because you took the time to get him to learn about others and to understand the rationale as to why it was wrong to do that, it will make an impression. You had your son make restitution to the driver too, and you should be proud. This comment received 33 upvotes. A comment from user an anonymous user says, NTA. You're amazing for what you did. It was a punishment, but you also helped him learn. Your husband is being an ass. A joke or not, that wasn't right to say at all. Racist kids will grow into racist adults if they aren't taught properly. You did the right thing. This comment received 45 upvotes. A comment from user StoicSquirrel78 says, NTA. You handled the situation exactly the way you should have handled it. In regards to your husband, I think you now know where your son got it from. I'd be having a serious conversation with your husband about his inherent racism and why he thinks that racist jokes are okay. This comment received 30 upvotes. A comment from user Tobal says, most Asians I know would laugh lol. Why do parents think writing essays are going to fix things? This comment received 134 upvotes. A comment from user EC987 says, YTA he didn't mean for the driver to hear. A joke is fine in the right context. You don't need to give him a lecture on the history of racism each time he makes a joke. An apology for offending the driver would have been enough. This comment received 57 upvotes. A comment from user This Is Fake Reality says, Esh. Your son's joke was in bad taste, though they do eat cats in China. A paper is ridiculous, but an apology was appropriate. However, it sounds like you're on the high horse along with everyone else these days. This comment received 236 upvotes. A comment from user European Lady says, YTA your husband's right. This was a harmless joke. There was nothing hateful about it. The delivery guy wouldn't have paid any attention to it if you hadn't overreacted the way you did. You turned this benign joke into a race-related situation which it wasn't. This comment received 31 upvotes. A comment from user Bubo Titan says, YTA. A simple apology would have been enough. Your son is 13. It's one thing to tell your son not to make jokes like that. It's way over the top to force him read out a public apology as if he's being forced to publicly confess like a political prisoner in a totalitarian state. Ironically, communist China makes people do this, so in that respect, I suppose you are teaching him about Chinese culture. And honestly, if a child made a similar joke about my culture, it would be extremely cringy and I would be embarrassed for him to publicly read out something like that to me. Just an, I'm sorry, would be enough. Edit asterisk. Wow, thanks for the gold. This comment received 266 upvotes. A comment from user Der Chrismeister says, YTA you overreacted and humiliated your son. This comment received 78 upvotes.